Like many others, it would be fair to say I was less than impressed by Rachel Zegler's dismissal of Walt Disney's 1937 masterpiece, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so.
It's no secret that Disney, like the rest of Hollywood, is obsessed with identity politics. But to have some young, woke actress disparage a film that the American Film Institute ranks among the 100 greatest American movies ever made, which Walt Disney mortgaged his house to make, and which adjusted for inflation is the highest grossing animated film ever made, is indicative of the seismic shift that Hollywood and Western culture has undergone in recent decades. And it just pissed me off. Once upon a time, true love was all that mattered.
True love is the greatest thing in the world.
The idea that a woman should dream of finding happiness in marriage is now treated with contempt.
It's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And the cartoon was made 85 years ago, and therefore it's extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power and what a woman is fit for in the world. And so when we came to reimagining the actual role of Snow White, it became about the fairest of them all, meaning who is the most just and who can become a fantastic leader. And the reality is, Snow White has to learn a lot of lessons about coming into her own power before she can come into power over a kingdom.
Forget about romance then. This is about female empowerment and the pursuit of self-actualization.
I don't need a man for that.
Honestly, this sounds like the sort of crap you'd hear from Meghan Markle.
I feel the embryonic kicking of feminism.
Yeah, unfortunately, so can the rest of us.
Women!
If I was going to be kind, I'd say that denigrating the achievements of the past is just what you might expect from someone of Zegler's age, but I'm not going to be kind, because her scornful sneering is a reflection of the woke delusion that human nature is malleable, society can be remade, and the knowledge of past generations is irrelevant.
We're better than you, and we know it.
How else are we to interpret Zegler's description of the story of Snow White as being
Weird.
because it was a love story, followed by her equally bizarre assertion that the prince
Literally stalks her.
I'd be lying if I said I was surprised by Zegler's remarks. Listening to her openly mock true love
Weird.
in favour of being a leader, it strikes me that it's no wonder that we're currently in the middle of a demographic crisis in which people are failing to form relationships and get married. She's representative of an indoctrinated younger generation that seemingly never tires of lecturing the rest of us about societal failings, whether it be feminism or the climate crisis.
People are dying. How dare you?
As irritatingly smug as she is, though, it's not unreasonable to assume that Zegler has been guided by Disney executives keen to highlight the film's departure from themes of romantic love and marriage that characterized earlier works and instead emphasize their woke credentials. Oh, spare me. Snow White is just the latest in a line of Disney females such as Sleeping Beauty and Cinderella, whose origins are to be found in the work of the Brothers Grimm, that now find themselves at odds with modern feminism in that they share a vision of happily ever after as being romantic love between a man and a woman. But now, of course,
No fear of that.
I doubt Zegler, or Godot for that matter, are aware of the European origins of these tales, or why anyone other than ists or phobes or bigots of some description would have any affection for them. This at least would explain their undisguised glee during press interviews in which we're practically invited to cheer as they express their contempt for the 1937 classic.
Weird.
Zegler tells us that she was
Scared of the original cartoon.
which makes me wish we were getting a retelling of the original tale rather than the Disney sanitized version. In it, the evil stepmother, now to be played by Gal Gadot, is forced to dance to death in red-hot shoes. It's a pity we won't get to see Gal take that on.
Imagine.
Oh, I am, Gal. I am. You might make the argument that a company like Disney, operating in a post-Me Too society, which now exists in a heightened state of feminist awareness, must, from a business perspective, continually examine its output, particularly that which is directed at young girls, and that it's not unreasonable for them to reflect modern, more inclusive values, especially if there's a buck to be made from it. Disney, though, have been heading in this direction for some time. Some examples include 2003's Frozen, where acts of true love have morphed to become those which reflect the bond between siblings, and in 2014's remake of Sleeping Beauty, Maleficent, the requisite true love's kiss comes not from the prince, who has no effect whatsoever, but from the fairy godmother. 2010's Tangled and 2016's Moana are similarly dismissive of heterosexual romantic love as a means to obtaining a happily ever after, instead choosing to focus on the bonds of family. Now in 2023, Zegler's remarks might suggest that Disney are content that modern feminist ideology is sufficiently well embedded that they can just forget about romance altogether.
He will carry me away to his castle, where we will will live happily ever after.
Weird.
She's not going to be saved by the prince.
Disney, though, are keen to have their cake and eat it. A quick look at the Disney store suggests that the Disney princess isn't going anywhere. She'll just be imbued with all new girl boss traits, but certainly won't want or need a prince.
I love that.
However, despite Zegler's self-assurance, Disney's obsession with remakes might suggest that they still lack confidence that making new movies based on new stories that reflect modern, woke sensibilities will resonate sufficiently well with audiences. Either that, or it demonstrates a determination to erase the originals and their outdated values in the minds of the public, but not without first using their popularity as a Trojan horse to drive home
The message.
as the critical drinker would say. The son of the animator who directed the original Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, David Hand, who himself worked for Disney in the 90s, alludes to this in his interview with The Telegraph, saying, "I'm afraid of what they're going to do with the early films. Their thoughts are just so radical now." He goes on that they shouldn't be taking a classic and rewriting it in their own image. Pick on something else. Create new characters if you're going to do this. But don't destroy or try to destroy something that is a classic and a beautiful piece. They change the stories, they change the thought processes of the characters, they just aren't the original stories anymore. They're making up new woke things, and I'm just not into any of that. Yeah, well, I'm right with you there, David. It's precisely this unwillingness or inability to write new stories and characters, combined with a casual disregard for the undeniably great works of the past, that I would argue is currently destroying Disney and Hollywood in general. I mean, what exactly does wanting to be a leader mean in the modern age? Women have always occupied prominent roles, whether it be as princesses, video game protagonists, Hollywood leading ladies, or action stars. No matter what Jennifer Lawrence might tell you.
Remember when I was doing Hunger Games, nobody had ever put a woman in the lead of an action movie.
Really?
What's more, they've done it without alienating and disparaging men in the process, or sacrificing their femininity.
Yeah.
Sadly, Rachel Zegler's comments mirror the biases and twisted worldview of the ideologically possessed activists who now call the shots. A further notable consequence of this is the increasing drive to insert women into roles made popular by men.
I'm 007.
Right.
The Doctor is a man.
I've had an upgrade.
Yes, it's being made abundantly clear that we're living in an entertainment
world that no longer cares about men.
Unfortunately for the writers, the bitterness and narcissism that seems to be symptomatic of the progressive mindset are difficult to disguise. This results in their screen interpretations of the qualities they're so keen for their vision of modern women to embody as mostly completely unlikable and some are just plain insufferable. In place of leadership, we're given arrogance, strength becomes obnoxiousness, and instead of courage, we're fed the flawlessness of the Mary Sue. And when fans dare to voice their criticism, well, the results are all too predictable. So just where do we go from here? With the writer's strike ongoing in Hollywood, at this point, I can't help but think letting AI take over might just be the best thing for everyone. How long will it be before we witness the death of physical media and digital streaming services like Disney Plus consider it altering their original works, or maybe one day even remove them altogether? I suspect that the fear that this might occur is at least partly responsible for the continuing popularity of DVD and Blu-ray disc sales, as people look to preserve their favourite films and shows, unsullied by progressivism. It's definitely one of the reasons I still buy them. In the meantime, it seems that Hollywood has plotted its course, and we're all headed there whether we like it or not. I'll let Kathleen Kennedy have the last word on Disney's future.
Really? We built this amazing thing and now we have to tear it down?